COP30 is a major United Nations climate summit. This year, leaders are meeting in Belém, a city in the heart of Brazil's Amazon basin, to discuss the priorities. I speak with Ambassador André Corrêa do Lago, the president of the event. Good morning. Good to see you. I met Corrêa do Lago at the Aspen Ideas Climate Convention in Chicago.
We still believe that we can work together because it's a very strange time in which individualism has grown at a very strong level. And we still believe in multilateralism, that you have to bring decisions that everybody goes together.
André Corrêa do Lago is the current president of the UN COP30, as well as the vice minister for climate, energy, and environment at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Brazil. I think, for me, your role is basically getting into a boxing ring against a renowned heavyweight and just getting beaten up for 15 rounds because you've got so many issues. What's it like having this leadership role for Brazil for the COP30?
Well, for Brazil, it is a very special moment because we have many reasons why we are somehow relevant in this debate. Some of them are positive, some of them are negative. So what are the negatives? Is that Brazil is many times remembered because of deforestation, for instance, and we have the largest tropical forest in the world. So people talk about Brazil when they talk about climate. They think of Brazil as a forest country. And by the way, that's why President Lula chose to do it in the Amazon. No? On the other side, Brazil is the champion of renewables. So we are very advanced in energy. We have 90% of our electricity is renewable in Brazil, which is amazing for such a big economy. Then we have very good scientists, very good institutions, so we may be even more part of the solution.
I think, for me, your role is basically getting into a boxing ring against a renowned heavyweight and just getting beaten up for 15 rounds because you've got so many issues. You've got big, powerful countries. You've got countries that are suffering, who don't have as much power. I mean, you've got to navigate all this stuff.
Yeah.
Why would anyone want the job that you have?
I didn't say I wanted the job. It happened. It happened. But anyway, I hope we can do something nice. I really think we can do something nice.
You hope to do something nice. What does that look like?
The U.S. is leaving the Paris Accord. But the fact is that it's about believing in finding solutions together. So I think this is the main thing. The other one is that I think that we have to explain better climate change to people and the climate change regime, because I think that somehow it became something among experts or people that think that explaining is beyond them and things like that. We need to explain what we're doing. And once we explain what we're doing, I think that people will understand that this is worthwhile. We have to remember the ozone layer. You remember the ozone layer was an incredible threat, and a diplomatic agreement ended with 95% of the gases that provoke the destruction of the ozone layer, and the ozone layer is recovered. So it is possible to have a diplomatic agreement, then a process, to have finance, to have technology, to eliminate a problem that affects everybody.
A study from the Potsdam Institute for Climate Impact in Germany has concluded that the climate crisis will cost the world $38 trillion per year by the middle of this century. That is like losing the whole economy of the United States every year. I heard you talk about the difference between climate and environment, and I thought it was so spot on because I think that people do equate both. And as you said, there's so many different elements to climate, and all of it is kind of push and shove and trying to get all of that to work well together. And when you're working with so many different countries and so many different interests, that's a tough task.
Yes.
Describe for us the difference as you see it.
Look, the issue started as an environmental issue, huh? But all the solutions to environmental issues are economic and political. No? And then you have also the local communities. So you immediately enter a negotiation, even inside the country. But outside the country, it's even more complex. So I think that when starts the environmental dimension is a bit a consequence, but it's not the whole story. And the whole story depends on the environmental issue. But in the case of climate, it very quickly leaves the environmental dimension to affect the economies of the countries. And this is the great difference with the ozone, is that ozone was a specific gas, and you found technologically a substitute. So you had to substitute that gas for another. The problem is that most of the climate change is related to fossil fuels, and fossil fuels is at the heart of the development of countries until recent years. So every country has to change the way they produce things, they transport things, they consume things. So it is really a major change. So that's why it migrates from environment to industry, to jobs. How many people are going to lose their jobs? But things are changing much more quickly than people think. Can you imagine that the Industrial Revolution started in Britain with coal? How symbolic it is that the first country that closes down all its consumption of coal and production of coal is the UK, the one that started the whole idea. Now nothing in the UK closed the last coal energy factory recently. So it is a moment, a historic moment somehow to change the way we are going to live because of the consequences of climate change.
There is no planet B. There is no planet blah, 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 blah.
Climate justice! Now!
Civil society plays a pivotal role in raising awareness, advocating for new policies, and holding governments accountable to the climate crisis. I remember years ago I was in Beirut and I was talking to a guy about the Arab Spring, and he said, what has the Arab Spring proven? The Arab Spring has proven that people can get out and protest, but can they actually govern? And I think this kind of gets to the issue of climate. Like, people can get out and protest. We need change, but you're actually doing the nitty gritty. I just kind of want you to frame it for our audience, the difference about, I mean, I can go out and say, I want all these changes, but you know what it's like to negotiate and actually get people to move from this position, even incrementally. Yeah. That's a hard job.
I like the comparison with the Arab Spring. We have to think that protest is essential. If there weren't protesters, if there weren't environmentalists in the late 60s and early 70s, this agenda would not have started. It would not have started from government. So protesters are essential. Now, as you said, sometimes the protester is not necessarily a good administrator of solutions, no? But then you have the guys of the solutions. Then you have the guys in the government. Then you have the guys with the money. So the thing is to find the right people to have this whole process in a constructive way. There are many positive examples, but I think we need to show much more. And that's why we're trying to build like a bank of solutions to present at COP30. So that we chose the 30 big issues that we already have an agreement at the COP. So first you need an agreement among countries. So we have this agreement. In Dubai, we had the global stock take, so everybody agreed on that. So we agreed on tripling renewables, we agreed on doubling efficiency, on transitioning away from fossil fuels, on stopping deforestation. We agreed on all that.
And how hard is that?
Let me tell you, what is really hard in the negotiation is that all countries fear, all of them, fear that fighting climate change may be bad for their economy, or maybe bad for their elections, for their next elections. So it's normal. A country is, when any country comes with somehow an average of the position of all the elements that compose that country, more in the conservative side. So first of all, countries are conservative when they have to negotiate something that will affect their development or their growth and their jobs, etc. So it's normal. Then you have consensus. You need consensus among 198 countries, which is also super difficult because then you go to the lowest common denominator. That's what people say all the time. But once you have that consensus, it is somehow international law, so you can start acting. Countries have to change their laws, their legislation, their behavior, etc. So we have to fight some interests, but we cannot have a war against those interests. We have to convince those interests. And I think that this is something that is a new exercise that we can try to at least start in the...
Well, we began by talking about you doing 15 rounds. You finished by talking about fighting. I think you'll do pretty well in your 15 rounds. Thank you so much, Ambassador, for talking to us. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Loved it talking to you.